Thank you very much to the EY team, and thank you, Peter, as well, for a great presentation. Let me just try and share my screen and get that up and running before we move on. So maybe if the EY team can confirm that they can see this for me. Okay, I'm going to take that as a yes. As the team there mentioned, my name is Paul Donaldson. I head up our customer success, our services orgs, and our support orgs here at Automation Anywhere. So my role is effectively to drive success through our customer estate. So making sure we're focusing on the right areas, making sure really internally we're focusing our technology on solutions that are fixing problems. So delighted just to take you through today just some of my views on intelligent automation, some of the new innovations that really are out there that you would have heard mentioned a few times today from different vendors, and I'll give you the Automation Anywhere view. Just give me 2 seconds. I think you're having problems seeing my screen here. Hopefully that is now better. So let's move through. So I'm going to focus really on stuff that you would have seen before to start with, right? So you're all familiar with the concepts of a global COE looking at unattended type automations, typically referred to as robotic process automation. Been some great work in the last 10 years, leading up to, I'd say, the last 2 years, where this has become very much mainstream. As part of that, good governance, good reporting, and good results have started to become very apparent across the globe. And most organizations that you speak to and talk to will be doing something in this space. A huge amount of work with the likes of IEEE and many other governing organizations, and the vendors and ultimately the customers have led to strong standards being institutionalized. So there's ways of working that will differ depending on the customer or the partner or the vendor, but standards are now there. So the global COE is nothing new. Then we start to look at, it becomes more of a results business. So you get some early wins, some quick wins from what is often a global center of excellence or divisional COE. And then really the next, I guess, pivot movement that a lot of customers and partners will make is to look at federating that down to a business unit or a regional level just for additional results. But you're still playing very much in the rules that have been driven at that kind of global COE level. System development is a well mentioned way of operating moving forward, and we're starting to see much more traction and desire from most organizations to put the hands of the products into the masses. So again, nothing new that you wouldn't have heard many, many times. Where I think we're now reaching a critical point is two key areas, two focus areas that are coming up pretty much with every customer that we would speak to. And it's really this final piece that Peter also referred to, and it's the employee engagement side of the world. So, and there's two things I'm going to use this presentation to take you through. It's the discovery part of how you identify pipeline that has the potential for automation and what you can do with that, and really moving beyond your federated model into the employee themselves. And the last one, which we've heard a few times already today, is about the importance of collaboration between your automations, your bots, and the individuals who are currently working those processes today. And that's really the threshold we're now reaching. Absolutely delighted. This is a huge day for us in regards to, we've just released ARI at the Automation Anywhere Innovation Days today. So I'll take you through what that means, but it's hot off the shelf in regards to a product announcement that was released just 3 or 4 hours ago now. So that human bot collaboration is a big part of this. And the third thing that I want to take you through is the importance of cloud. And that might sound obvious, but the importance of cloud when it comes to automation and some of the microservices that you just mentioned there previously, this drive of adoption and being able to roll this kind of technology out both at a COE, a federated level, and to your employee stack, cloud is a huge driver of doing that, and it fits in most organizations' digital strategy at the moment. So this is pretty much every conversation we'll have with a customer now. It's driven by this cloud conversation in regards to, it's now table stakes in regards to what automation technology, how it can be provisioned. So I'm going to focus on those three themes for the sake of this conversation. I'm going to start with process discovery, and you may have heard during the introduction, I've had the fortune to be an end user in this space using different technologies, not just Automation Anywhere. I've also been the consultant, so I've headed up a automation practice who delivered this for our customers. And for the last couple of years, I've taken the vendor angle, delivering this in Automation Anywhere. And this number, whether you agree with it or not, is prevalent in regards to the amount of automation initiatives don't scale to the potential that a customer may see at the start of their journey or the aspirations that they have. And you heard the point from Peter about thinking about your end state, kind of outside in rather than inside out. A lot of the automation initiatives we've seen today across the globe don't reach their full potential, and that's partly technology, that's partly stakeholders and the customer themselves and the vision that they have. But let's just kind of evaluate one of the biggest blockers that's causing that that we see today. So this very simple couple of chevrons you see at the top of the screen. A huge challenge that we all have is we're not short of ideas. Everyone's got great ideas of where automation can be used, and the technology stack comes on and on for every month and year that passes. But really one of the manual areas for most organizations that are deploying this kind of technology is right at the funnel, right at the front end of how you identify what your processes are and the documentation that's involved in that. For anyone that's done Six Sigma, and I have for many, many years, that part of a Six Sigma project is where you get your pass or fail, right? If you don't do that bit correctly, the bit at the right doesn't happen, right? So it's no different in the automation world. You have to put proper due diligence into how you identify your processes and how you document them, right? Otherwise, you'll never really know what they're doing. And your automation will expose that. So we see 70% approximately the automation is done at the front end, right? Before you even get to the hard bit of, actually I would describe it as the easy bit on automating it itself, the 30%. Now, if we look at where that comes from, this is kind of really upfront investment, not knowing what the outcome is, to take something from all of the way from a design perspective, definition perspective, all the way to design before you even think about automating it. And hopefully at that stage, you've got enough data to justify this process is viable and the benefits are there. And I said on the previous slide, so many projects never get to the stage because you get so lost in that 70%. Now, Discovery Bot is something we launched in the last few months. There are different versions of this in the marketplace, and this is how we look at the world from a process discovery point of view. And please don't confuse this with process mining, which is much more of a kind of, I guess, an intrusive bit of software. I'm not saying a bad piece of software, but it's got a different role to play in this ecosystem that we're in. So process discovery is the ability for your end users, so the people that know and understand your processes, to record their user activity as they do them now. And that can include as much variation in that process as you need, right? Because we all know that the way one person delivers a process might be very different to the person that sits next to them doing exactly the same thing. So the variations in kind of how people deploy what they do today is very, very significant. The next step really is how you prioritize them. And that's the ability to take the inputs that are provided by a huge amount of end users and then prioritize them into a central console. And really where the market is now heading, where the technology is heading, is this ability for bots to create bots, right? So what I'm not saying at this stage is you're going to go through those 3 steps by someone that's sitting in your organization doing their process today, and you're going to get a perfect hardened bot that your COE would think is production ready. But if you can take away that, as much of that 70% of the effort that we referred to on that front end piece, and put it into the person that really does that process, avoid any kind of bias that can come from manual capture, you will really start to see the results that might look a little bit like this. So if I look at the world again before Discovery Bot, right? You've got a business user up here, right? It's the business user that gets this. That's their ability. And then you're using your C of E type skill set in your analysts, your subject matter experts, sometimes even your developers, to do that kind of big portion of that process discovery. The next stage there is the automation development, as we said before, and you've usually got some kind of intelligent automation developer for your partner or the customer themselves. The kind of results we're seeing are kind of groundbreaking in regards to what that can look like. So we're really putting more responsibility into the wider group to get the scale, to get the volume, to really get to the heartbeat of what your organization are doing, right? And by simply recording what they're doing, it's not so much of an overhead, right? The analysts can then spend their time designing how that automation should look like, right? So the second piece along, and the developer can really have a very clean set of data with a kind of pre-canned bot that they harden, deploy, exception handling, and everything off the back of that. And really what you start to see at that stage is some significant benefits from building out a pipeline. So if you haven't looked at process discovery before, it's a very common theme that's starting to come through. We're pretty excited about it here and the results that we're seeing. So I'm going to move on to Ari, which I teased you with right at the start there. So this is the Automation Anywhere Robotics Center, right? So, and by that, I'm talking about a platform that's been introduced to tackle the wider business that I referred to right at the start of the presentation. So if you see your C of E here, which was the kind of top bit I led from, right? You've got a global COE, it might be federated to some degree, but you've got all of these separate areas, very different functions, some in the back office, some in the front office, with very, very similar, so very similar needs in regards to a need for automation improvements at times and delivering a better service to the customer base, but work very differently in the nature of automations themselves. So if I take really just the contact center, which I've got sitting at the top here, and traditional way is someone would typically be calling in to a back office, right? Again, we've heard this a few times. And we must have all had the experience where we've called in and we hear someone frantically typing, having a half conversation with us as consumers at the other end of the call. They might have some technology that's starting to help this, and you see some of the areas listed below and a very simple ordering type process. Now, if we look at the reality of how technology can now help us in this space, so we've got a team sitting up here at the top in the support team, customers calling in, and using a bit of IVR at the front end. Very simply, we can use that data to capture all of the detail related to the customer, right? So the call agent isn't hunting for information. It's the bots in the background are doing the hard churn for them, right? So, and then rather than collecting information, the team of support agents are actually talking about the status of the order itself, right? They're getting to the crux of what the problem is. Using that information, the bot's really in this simple example saying, right, the status is delayed. That's been communicated to the customer. And a really simple answer at the end is typical activity. The call agent might say, I've got the right contact details for you. They might very simply update a phone number. So really, really simple common world stuff, right? So nothing new in that. Now, let me just show you what that looks like in action. So I'm going to show you this video. I'm going to keep pausing it as we progress through. I was going to show you this video, but it doesn't seem to want to work for me, which is a little bit strange. Okay, well, let me talk to you about the nature of what we do, because I can see everything I need in screen. So I've got my customer service agents taking a call, right? Simple call on a mobile phone, which you're seeing on the right. Now, all that's going to happen for that call agent is this very simple form that you see on screen: first name, last name, phone number, address, orders, right? Nothing complex at all. Rather than RPA, where you've got all of this automation kind of sitting under the bonnet, this is then the assistant to the call center agent. And effectively, all the bots are doing in the background is doing this hard work. So it's going to complete that information for us and very simply kind of run it through for us and take all of that data. So the IVR is going to get the customer name and really work it through from there. Let me move on. Technology doesn't want to be my friend today. So let's take an additional example of this, right? So this could be a shared service center. And again, many of you will be working with colleagues in a shared center. For the EY team here, you'll have customers where you're speaking to large shared service centers, right? And this is the kind of stuff that RPA wouldn't typically have addressed because of the building the kind of customer interaction between what is then the loan team here, right? It's just a simple application for a loan and the software, right? And just being able to do those simple handoffs that you see going up and down and left and right, more complex when you're looking at an RPA perspective. So what RE would allow you to do is from the loan team's perspective, you would take your customer name, all of the loan request details, and that loan team's going to fill out that documentation, right? It's coming in as a written request. It's going to do all of the hard work to get that 360 customer view. It's going to look at things like credit checks as we go through. We see Equifax sitting at the bottom, maybe sitting in Salesforce as an entry right at the front end. And the results are then flagged, sent to potentially an underwriter to approve that loan request. Hopefully at that stage you're using something like DocuSign to get that signature over the line. So it's kind of working that entire chain through. And ultimately, from a customer perspective, you're bringing down that kind of overall time, but ultimately making your loan team far more efficient and having the benefit of getting bots doing what bots should do and getting people not having to worry too much about the manual entry. So let's see if this video is going to be a bit kinder to me. It doesn't seem to be. I don't know what's going on with Zoom here, but hey, let's move on. So the final example I'm going to give to you is a simple sales operation. So for anyone sitting in the kind of sales type space on this call, probably knee deep into a Salesforce, but working with, say, a deals desk to create quotes. And again, this handoff, it's allowing Google Mail, Salesforce, Excel, Oracle, a load of the database to interact together. So that's the principal logic of RE. So what does that mean in practice? Well, RE is a way to, first of all, allowing the business users. This is a web-based control room that you're seeing here, right? If anyone's familiar with RPA, you'll be familiar with that term. So roles-based access to allow specific automations or specific devices, users, to be able to configure the role. Then it's the ability to kind of map that end-to-end process. So those process steps that we saw in the last couple of visuals, from start to conclusion with different variations, and able to map that deployment. And then I think the advantage, and the reason why I added cloud to this presentation, is this ability to be able to push out those updates to tens of thousands of users. I've got thousands here, but it could be tens of thousands within seconds, right? You might have a change of process that, say, for example, it could have been a COVID-related loan-based process that had to go in very quickly, probably lots of changes happening based on governing law every day, every night. And this ability to be able to push over a cloud instance is very, very powerful. So I'm just going to wrap up and go into cloud just for a little bit. I'm getting my timing messages here. So what cloud enables us to do, right? So we all as vendors love talking about features and functionality, and I've been victim of doing that myself today, right? So I'm guilty of doing that myself. You've got all of these areas like discovery that I took you through, RPA, IQBot, but putting them all onto one central platform, right? One control room. You're not integrating with any other applications. It's one control room doing all this activity, and driving that off the cloud, accessible from any device, whether it's secure, public, or private network, with just this ability to be able to push via a web browser. Very, very powerful. And IDC, you've heard them speaking already today, but they looked at A2019, which is our most recent platform. And it was the, certainly our belief is this was the first built for cloud RPA platform, right? So it's been built as cloud native, allows you to drag and drop, impressive user interface. And look, if anyone wants to know more, ping me on LinkedIn or email me after the session. But the importance of cloud for you as an EY team and all your customers that are here now. So this, from our calculations, automation on premises, you can get any, depending on how you want to quantify that, the year dollar savings go increasingly up, but this cost delta by moving automation plus cloud together, and also the savings that you don't see in regards to the time, the effort, the integration of deploying a new automation estate and any integrations that come off of it. So EY study commissioned by us last year really looked at that difference of huge percentage differences over time from automation on premise versus automation in the cloud. And really, just because I don't want to confuse too much about, well, we're on-prem, we don't want to be on cloud, or we're not quite there. There are very different models where we're looking at now. So you get this kind of pure cloud, which is a huge amount of demand for us as a vendors coming now. Lots of enterprises with that kind of strategy. So fully hosted, great from a client perspective, like a lot of the applications that you use. There might be Salesforces, your Workdays. They're just updating for you without you even knowing it through downtime. So huge advantages there. In the automation space, a lot of cloud-enabled requirements. So having your control room in the cloud, getting the benefits of the updates from there, but still keeping your data locally. And then there's the kind of more of a hybrid model where you can have on-prem versus updates in the cloud themselves. So I just really want to finish exactly where I started and just kind of reiterate, I guess, the key points. So as you look at scaling, I would say this first bit is lots of common stories, lots of case studies, right? Lots of governance. The second bit, we end up talking as an industry quite a bit about system development, very current topic. But really, I would encourage you, if you really want to scale, to look at how you would engage with your employee base, the wider employee engage, how you engage bots as part of the process. I talked about the discovery, the way of speeding up, this ability for human and bots to work together, and RE is our platform for doing that. And finally, the importance of cloud wrapping around that. I thank you for your time. Happy to take any questions if anyone wants to email me after the session or connect on LinkedIn. So thank you to the EY team for having me.